The following is a TPC Network podcast.
I am Paul Bissonnette, and you're listening to the Lukewarm Seat podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week of the Lukewarm Seat podcast, and boy, do we got a dandy. My name is Josh Ruxall, and I'm joined by
the Rockstar Chris Cole.
And together we make the Lukewarm Seat. Chris, it's been a busy week. Normally we record this the day we do the interview, and we're slacking. It was a busy weekend. We partied. We partied hardy.
We did party hardy. I threw chip chambers in a pool.
Yep.
Made him.
You got a little inebriated.
I did get a little. I get chatty.
You lose your filter as you drink.
I do lose that. I do lose that filter a little bit.
There's drunk Chris, and then there's sober Chris, and they're two very different people, but the same.
Yeah. Like, I'm not mean. I just have no filter.
Yeah, exactly. You're not rude. You don't want to fight.
No, not usually.
Speaking of which, I introduced you to a new liquor, and you quite enjoyed it.
I did quite enjoy it, in spite of that being made of something that typically does make me want to fight.
And not to say that don't know what I'm trying to say, but they are our unofficial sponsor this week, and that is the New Amsterdam vodka, Pink Whitney, our unofficial sponsor, Pink Whitney.
And it really is delicious.
It's so good. I love it. They just did this thing where you can make it with the blue freezy. You can mix that with the blue freezy, and I think that'd be a doozy of a drink.
That would be the other day, a friend of mine posted he was at the grocery store, and the grocery store was giving away free Pink Whitney, and he got a bottle of Pink Whitney for free.
For free.
Yep.
Wow. I need to go to that grocery store.
I honestly didn't know that was legal.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they probably checked IDs, and I didn't think you could have vodka in a grocery store, but maybe it was like one of those little dépanneur grocery stores or whatever.
It was like a Loblaws or a superstore type, like the big chain. Yeah.
Weird.
Messed me right up.
So we had a party. We had a baby shower. So many diapers. Holy lifting. We were just organizing those this morning, and I am sure we have over 1,000 diapers on hand.
That's good for like a week.
I was like, we're set for life. And Jace is like, babe, our child is literally going to use at least 8 per day. I'm like, I'm going to go in the poorhouse here. Can you imagine if they had triplets? Like, holy, that is 24 diapers a day minimum.
Oh, it'd be craplets.
Goodness. What else? What else is new this week? Diaper party. We put our first card break video on YouTube.
Yeah.
People have been enjoying it and commenting, saying that they bought something off that guy from eBay, and it was a pretty good video.
I thought it was an excellent video, and I'm not part of it, and that's okay.
Well, it's not really your thing. Like, I think eventually we're gonna have you do like cover songs on our YouTube, and like you can take requests or whatever. Or that's where you can try making original music?
I think, like we have lots of different options that we can do, and we're going to keep giving you content on our YouTube. I actually posted on our TikTok today.
You posted on our TikTok. I haven't even... Okay, folks, you are getting a live first impression of Chris's post on our TikTok. Do I even have TikTok?
Oh, it's the same. It's the preview that I sent out. I just put it on TikTok as well.
You put on how'd you put on TikTok? Isn't TikTok on like 15 seconds?
No, you can do 15 seconds or 60 seconds.
Oh wow! We got TikTok. Follow us on TikTok at the Lukewarm Seat on TikTok. You can see I think we're gonna make this like a weekly thing now. It worked with Eddie. It worked with the On the Bench Boys. It worked with Paul Bissonnette. We're gonna put out like a little teaser every week before. And by we, I mean Chris is gonna put out a teaser every week before we drop the episode.
I'm really excited, and plus, for those watching us right now or listening on YouTube, for the first time, you're seeing us in person because we're actually going to post the video. We posted the video of this on our YouTube, which is
Yeah.
super cool. We're totally dressed for public right now.
I'm in my best house attire, and no sleeves, and I'm good to go. And
Do
you
you
can
have
even
the?
see my siblings walking around me, and I don't have a studio. I'm sitting at the kitchen table. I've got my Soda Stream, Dr. Pete, and I'm good to go.
Do you have like a frilly shirt on? No.
Oh, you
We're
want
going to
to
talk about that. We'll get there. You can see I'm actually sitting in my living room right now. You can see the dining room behind me. I'm not in the studio this week, which is kind of funny because we're doing video, and here I am. It's just looks like a vast space behind me.
Well, what I want to figure out a way to extend my Wi-Fi to go to my man cave, which I showed you, Chris, and have that as a background for like when we do the podcast. So maybe eventually we'll get to a point where I can have Wi-Fi in my man cave, which is like off the house, and have that as a nice view in the background.
I meant to tell you about something while I was there, and I actually have a little gift for you that'll get you your internet out in your man cave.
Oh well, look at you go!
Yeah,
you're just a gentleman and a scholar.
You're not wrong.
So we mentioned fringed shirts.
Yeah, fringed shirts.
And Daisy Duke shorts.
Terrifying, pocket hanging out Daisy Duke shorts.
And I mean, you gotta love it. It's
you don't.
It's summer. It's summer. everyone wants to have a nice tan. They want a breeze. They want to feel nice and cool. And you know what? I took some jeans I had, and I cut the legs right off them. And I'm gonna say I rocked those jean shorts better than Jessica Simpson and Dukes of Hazzard. It was a sight.
It was a sight. It was a sight indeed. I'll never get it back. My eyesight. But
I took my shirt, I crop topped it, fringed it up, and I rocked that the whole day. Like it wasn't just like for like a couple people. Like there was like old family members that were coming by, and like people that are like don't really know like my outgoing. Like if there's two sides of me. There's my my bad days where I'm like shut in, and then there's days where I feel 100%, I feel on, and I feel good, and or sometimes I try and mask it, and I put myself in an uncomfortable situation and cut off the pant legs and crop up the shirt and let everyone see the cheeseburger locker.
The cheeseburger locker. And I mean, if nothing else, I'm there to help you be in an uncomfortable situation. So, I'll probably do something. Let's be honest.
But no, it was like, it was good to see people. I think that helped. We're also a very pro mental health podcast. I think
we are.
Finally being able to see and connect with people after all this long pandemic break. It's good for the soul. It's good for the mind. It was good to just be with good people again and socialize.
Great to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time too, and I keep chuckling about it back. I'm a very non-competitive person. Like I'm not competitive. We were playing washer toss, and I threw the washer and I ringed it, so you get it in the center of the box for those who don't know. And I was playing. Remy was against me. He was on the same side, like the same side of the ring toss as I was, washer toss as I was. And I just decided to taunt him a little bit, and he throws one exact same spot, like he rings it too, right back to back. Yeah, back to back. We both it was the first point for both of us.
And that was fun. It was fun just to play washer toss. We played spike ball for one round, and that was quickly abandoned. We swam
pretty bad.
And no, it was good. It was good to get around, get to see people, and I think that was good for the mind, good for the soul, and it was just good to not feel secluded and sheltered anymore. Like the things are starting to open up, and we're able to see people, and that was a nice little gathering of people.
And then my kids showed up.
And then your kids showed up, and the day was ruined, and I had to cook vegetables on the barbecue.
You did. You cooked vegetables on the barbecue.
I don't think I told you this. I told one of your children, I told your oldest, I was like, how's that real hot dog treating you? He goes, it's a hot dog. I'm like, no, I gave you a real one. How's that meat? He goes, you wouldn't do that. And I was like, oh yeah, I would. He goes, my mom gave it to me, not you, so you're a liar. Like,
yeah, you can't trick that one. He's the oldest is the one you can't trick, right? Like because he's 90 years old. He's
he's seen it all.
He's seen it all at this point. And speaking of seen it all, the middle one shows up. First thing he says to us is, like we go on this. They went on a hike while we were having man time, and I go,
that sounds bad.
How? Yeah. How was I go? How was the hike? He goes, we saw a dead body. Was the first thing out of his mouth, and our eyes just went. Whoop. And we.
And for those listening on to podcast form, Chris just made small holes over his eyes, and then he made them big. So it was like an eye. We were like jaw dropped, eyes open.
Oh my gosh! And I just realized I have the video set wrong. There we go. That's better. And I'm recording this. I should know what to do. So here we are. Like he just says that, and I go, "You what?" And I'll say that sobered me up pretty quickly.
You did get a lot quieter after that.
I did. And he says, yeah, it was like a deer. And we saw a spine of a deer. And then I found out later it wasn't even a deer. It was like a raccoon or a skunk or something like that. Like it wasn't even the size of a deer. But yeah, that was the first impression of they went on a hike and saw a dead body.
And you told me this. You're like, Clifford, go tell Josh what happened. And Clifford comes to me and goes, I saw a dead body. And I'm like, okay, were you downtown St. Stephen? Like, where were you? And he's like, no, we were in Ganong Nature Park, and I was walking, and then I saw the spine. And I was like, you saw a spine? He goes, yeah, a deer spine. I'm like, okay, well, that's something you should probably lead the conversation with and not leave it as like a cliffhanger for part 2. So what else is new in our world? We've got a new political party in the world.
Oh my goodness, the birthday party.
The birthday party. Now, I've seen a lot of posts. I've seen a lot of people talking that celebrities be celebrities, don't be politicians. But there is exceptions. There's people that are born like that are Jesse the Body Ventura, one. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Ronald Reagan.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
But they dropped literally everything in their life and made that 100% their goal and took it serious as can be. Do you think Kanye West is going to drop Yeezys and stop making albums if he's elected president of the United States? We're going to have the first rapping president if he gets elected like he thinks he is. I think he's past like the ballot point. He can be like an independent candidate now, but he can't be on like...
He can't be on every state's ballot. But he can be he's an independent. He can be an independent on the ballot. He's his.
What is his platform? What does he want to change in the world? What do we know any of this? Is this?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Do you not know his platform?
I don't know what his platform is. I literally heard Kanye West is legitimately running for president, and I was like, all right, that's all I need to know.
He called vaccines the work of the devil. Or the mark of the beast is a vaccine. He said he no longer supports Donald Trump. I honestly think he's trying to split the vote because he's been a vocal supporter of Trump for a very long time.
And keep Trump in office?
Yeah. He's backed by Elon Musk.
I saw that, and that was just like, of course, Elon Musk would do something outlandish like this.
What crazy rich billionaire people?
Here, take my money.
Yeah, he's like bonkers crazy, right? Kanye is.
Kanye? Excuse me, I'll let you finish your debate, but I just want to tell you that Beyonce has the best video of all time.
So part of his platform is he is actually going to run the United States government like Wakanda from Black Panther. This is all real. This is a Forbes interview. It's mind-boggling. The stuff, like, he's not going to be elected. Let's be now. We said that about who.
It's not fake news.
Where else is it here? Hold on, give me one sec. I have all this here. It's crazy. I'm oddly prepared for this segment that I wasn't prepared for.
But like, okay, so while you're looking for that, I believe that anybody that has a solid drive and wants to do it can be president of or prime minister or run for government of whatever province, state, territory, country they live in. As long as they're 100% committed to it, you got to literally have that first. That has to be first and foremost. You can't have I'm the prime minister of Canada, but before that I'm squishy ref.
Right.
Like no, you can't. Like I'm not going to be going on the independent circuit, reffing wrestling, and being Prime Minister Josh Ruckstall Monday to Friday. Like it's not a thing.
Oh man. So he said he's never voted in his entire life. Planned Parenthoods have been placed inside cities by white supremacists to do the devil's work. It's bonkers. Like the whole
Does
thing.
MTV pick up his campaign as a what's those series? A reality series? Like
I don't know. They did that with Hulk Hogan.
But he never ran for anything.
They just really run. He just said he was going to.
Well, just like Mickie James said she's going to run.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. I'm gonna leave it at that. It's bonkers. If you have a passion for politics and you want to see it change the world, cool.
Oh, there's more. There. Like I gotta give you more here. No longer supports Trump. He's okay with siphoning off black votes from Democratic nominee, thus helping Trump. He says, "I'm not denying it. I just told you to say the black vote is Democratic is a form of racism and white supremacy." He said he had COVID-19 in February. Vaccines of the America of the Beast. And yeah, plans. He envisions the White House organizational model based on the secret country Wakanda and Black Panther.
Crazy. Absolute crazy.
Yep. Amazing. It
sounds like a movie. It literally sounds like a blockbuster movie.
You can't write something this amazing.
It's gonna be huge.
Huge. China.
No, that's how I feel about it. I use the impression to explain how I feel about it. And if you are passionate about politics and you've shown passion and you're willing to give up everything for politics, watch The Politician on Netflix. If you haven't already, it's got Ben Platt. The guy, like, it explains what it takes to be a politician through Ryan Murphy's point of view, who is the originator and director of Glee. An amazing show. Great show. Check it out. Politician Ben Platt, and it's amazing. Great. That's what it takes to be a politician, not somebody that has enough money to be like, no, I don't want to be a politician. You see The Rock trying to make change and do positive things, but he's not running for president of the United States.
Yeah. People keep trying to get him to do
him
it.
And Ellen. They keep trying to get him and Ellen to run for president, but they're like, why? I don't have a passion to get up and decide where my nuclear war missiles are going to go, and like, there's so much more than just being the face of a country when it comes to that.
And that's it, right? Like, it's, oh my goodness.
It's not okay. So you and I, we've met each other through wrestling, and the best way I can describe this is being president is not like being the champion of your wrestling company. It's being the owner of the wrestling company. Sure, your champion is what everyone sees and as the big focal point of your promotion, but your country, you can't have a champion running your country.
No, and it's just too much. There's too much that they have to do. I mean, like, I know that in the United States, they've proven now for the last 3 years that the leader of the country can just nap the whole time. But
nap and fire, nap and fire, nap and fire. You're fired. Pack your things. You're gone.
all right.
All right, moving on. So, history. We're gonna do
Yes.
the game. We're gonna figure out. Whoa, my phone's like, hey, what up? And so we're gonna do history. And
Yes.
this week in history, in 1948, the United States Air Force accepted its first female recruit into a program called the Women in the Air Force (WAF).
Sorry. WAF.
WAF. WAF.
WAF.
All right, it's music time. We're gonna get Chris to guess.
All right.
What was
I got
the
last
top-
week.
Okay. My hints are gonna be a little different. Okay. 1976. This was the number one hit from July 10th, 1976 to July 23rd, 1976.
July 10th.
It is featured in a Will Ferrell movie.
Okay.
And it references it is a sexual innuendo song.
It's not not Moulin Rouge, is it? Like Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? No.
1967 number one hit was by the Starland vocal band.
Ah.
Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her.
Wait, is it
tight,
67 or
gonna grab some
76?
afternoon delight. 76.
Oh, okay. I knew that. It's a great song.
1998, Lethal Weapon 4, Madeline, and Small Soldiers, one of the greatest movies ever, debuted in theaters.
Did you just call Small Soldiers one of the greatest movies ever?
Love Small Soldiers.
I'm on board. That
It's
movie's
about
great.
action figures. It's about action figures. How can I not love it?
It's a great
You've
movie,
literally
too.
seen my man cave. How can I not love Small Soldiers? Also, Madeline. Sure. I mean, I've watched
Lethal
it.
Weapon 4, Jet Li.
I've never watched any of the Lethal Weapons.
I'm sorry to hear that. You're missing out.
All right, and that leads us to, well, we're talking about pop culture. We always try to talk about something pop culture-y. Lately, we've been on a movie trend. I wanted to stick with the movie trend.
All right, I'm easy.
So, we're going to talk about sequels. Movie sequels.
Sequels.
Some are good, some are bad. Some people like bad ones. Some people think good ones are bad ones. I've got a list of a few of my favorite sequels or movies that have had movies come out after.
Is one of them Alvin and the Chipmunks, the squeakquel?
No.
Oh.
None of them are that. It doesn't fit in any category. I've got literally any Toy Story that came after one. Great.
Right.
Spider-Man 2. This is before we had emo Tobey Maguire dancing in the streets.
Okay, so Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series where he's facing Doc Ock, and that's probably the best Tobey Maguire one, in my opinion.
It's pretty good.
It's a good one. Okay, here's a gray area. Does Harry Potter have sequels, or is that one giant storyline? Would you consider Harry Potter movies sequels?
I would say it's a sequel because you don't see what happens in between them.
Yeah, but it is already a transition. It's a transitioning story, right? It's not like going to my bad list here. Dumb and Dumb.
Is that the second one or the third one?
That's the second one where they get young people to play the summer school.
The guy
students.
from NCISLA. What's his name?
I don't even know. I watched it for. It has. What's his name? Played in the Transformers. He was in. Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf's in it. I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong. Could very well be wrong.
I'm gonna look it up. You keep
I'm pretty
talking.
sure Shia LaBeouf's in it. We got Shrek 2. Shrek can't do anything wrong.
No, Shrek 2 is excellent.
And then probably one of the number one greatest sequels ever is The Dark Knight. It's the Batman came right after Batman Returns, or just is it Returns? No, Batman Returns is in the first. Is it just Batman?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, the first Christian Bale
Batman
one.
Begins.
Batman Begins. Then you got The Dark Knight Rises, which
Shia
is
LaBeouf
probably
he is in Dumb and Dumber. He plays Lewis.
I knew it. I for some reason every time I picture Shia LaBeouf, I think of Dumb and Dumber and Holes. That's it. That's all I picture.
Holes. That's all I got.
That's all you picture? I just watched a movie where he's in it. It just came out, and he is taking a man with special needs to a wrestling school. It's a great movie. Peanut Butter Falcon. Great movie. It's got Jake the Snake Roberts, literally being Jake the Snake Roberts in it. And
oh, really?
Yeah, literally.
Hey there, Shia LaBeouf. That's not his character name. Dang.
He's like, no, it's Jake the Snake Roberts, and he's like, hey, Jake, give him his first match. And the kid has special needs and he wants to be a wrestler, but they're like, sure. And the movie's very unclear of when the time period is. And Jake's like, you're making a mockery of my business, brother. And then starts stiffing the kid. And it's great. It's a great film. Love it. And it's a Shia LaBeouf movie. That, and there was a war movie he was in where he played in a tank.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about
and that was a really good movie too. Brad Pitt's in it. Fury,
yeah.
Great movie. But we're falling adrift.
Indiana Jones 4.
Oh, I wasn't a fan. Not a fan.
We're talking about sequels.
That's clumped in, but that's clumped in with like the Star Wars that came in the 2000s. Misa Jaja Binks. Okay, so those are my list of ones that I think is good. Is the Toy Story, The Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2, Shrek 2, and Magic Mike XXL, where just for Joe Montaglio trying to pop the girl at the convenience store.
I'm telling you,
great scene.
Those movies are awesome. They're guy movies that trick you into thinking they're movies for women, right?
So I want to hear
chick flicks, for lack of a better term.
So you got about 45 years on me. I want to hear the older movies that you got that I didn't say. Mine are pretty recent movies. You're gonna have the older demographic, the silent pictures, all that kind of stuff.
Gone with the Wind 2, Scarlet's Revenge.
So I want to hear what you think has a movie that has had good sequels to it.
Good sequels. I would say, I thought Lethal Weapon 2 was probably the best Lethal Weapon movie. It's the one that I liked the most. It was also the first one I watched, which a lot of the time when we're looking at those movies, it's the sequel, if you ended up watching a sequel first. Because what made it a sequel, it was... Yes, it followed the same storyline, but it's like it came to being in a lot of ways.
I find what makes a sequel is they didn't plan, like, that's why Harry Potter's a gray area for me. It's like, okay, so we made the one movie, it did very well. Let's make another one.
Right.
So that's where I find that Harry Potter might not fit that mold.
Even Star Wars.
Yeah, I find that they didn't really have to make the 2000s ones. Like, let's be real, there was.
But they were part of the plan.
20 years.
What? Oh,
were they part of the plan?
Yeah, they were part of the plan. Yeah.
I don't know.
We had a little.
My internet just went weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say we had a little technical difficulty there.
So yeah, those are.
So yeah, I had Lethal Weapon 2. I'd say Lethal Weapon 2 was one of my all-time favorite sequels. What did I just watch? I've always been a fan of Rocky 3. That's the one with Mr. T. That's a good one. Back to the Future 2 is fantastic.
I haven't seen any of the movies you've been.
You're missing
saying.
out.
I'm young. I'm young.
Yeah.
Short Circuit 2?
Yeah. Oh God, worse than Short Circuit. Terrible. It's like
we like to make jokes that you had to have listened to our last episode for you to understand.
So the thing with Short Circuit 2 is like, what if we made a sequel and just made it racist? And that's basically Short Circuit 2, in a nutshell. Oh, what was that sequel? It was the sequel to E.T. Oh, Alien.
That, all right, so since
Aliens. In all seriousness, Aliens. The sequel to Alien.
Never seen it. Looks scary. Don't like it.
Fantastic movie. Excellently done. My goodness, there's so many. I'm a big sequel guy.
Do you want to hear my bad ones?
Is one of them Mortal Kombat Annihilation?
No.
Is it real bad?
I imagine. I've got Dumb and Dumber. I've got Mighty Ducks 3.
Hey, get out of here. You leave
the Mighty Ducks 2 is good. Mighty Ducks 3, when they send them to boarding school, is terrible. And I will still watch it, just out of respect that it's a trilogy, but it doesn't mean I have to enjoy it.
Because he had the super hard slap shot, then he had the knuckle puck. What did he invent in 3?
No,
Knuckle puck was 2, right?
Knuckle puck's 1. Knuckle puck's 1. Super hard slap shot's 1. No, 2. 2 is the knuckle puck.
Yeah.
Daddy Day Camp, bad movie.
Ooh, Daddy Day Camp.
Bad movie.
Let's be honest, Daddy Daycare is not great either.
It's better than Daddy Day Camp. Grown Ups 2, great movie. Love it.
I also love Grown Ups 2.
It's a great movie. Forgot it in my list.
Fun.
I pictured.
Those are all people that are older than I am.
Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo.
Oh, it's super bad
movie.
Super bad.
Paul Blart, Mall Cop 2.
Like, how did they make it worse?
Very bad. Like, the movie wasn't even good to start with. Why? Yeah. And then you have Jamie Kennedy in Son of the Mask.
Oh, Son of the Mask. Like, really quickly, like, Jamie Kennedy was that guy who you're like, oh, man, he's going to be a huge star. Like, he's funny. He can do serious if he has to.
Scream.
It's going to be a huge star. Scream, he was in a movie. It was called Malibu's Most Wanted, which is an underrated movie. He's fantastic in it. So yeah.
What's the one where he does hip hop and he's like a street dancer?
He wants to be a rapper, but he's from
there's one
like
he does
a rich
about
kid
street
from Malibu.
He does one about street dancing too, like hip hop or whatever. Anyway, but I also have movies that people don't like and say are bad that I am in love with. Grease 2, I don't care who you are, I'll fight you. Grease 2 is amazing. It is the best, and you can find it at any $5 Walmart bin. Great. It's a great film.
One of my children.
Grease 2, it's amazing. Literally the music, on point. The only thing missing, Olivia Newton-John.
You're right. Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer was not a substitute for Olivia Newton-John.
No. But Olivia Newton-John would have been like 40 at the time.
That's all right.
She's like 10 years older than John Travolta when they made that first one.
Yeah. She's big recording star and everything.
Yeah, you can find all her records in the $2 bin.
Another one.
Bad or good, or that people.
This is a good one. Is Wrath of Khan, like especially where the first Star Trek movie was awful, like
never
terrible.
Seen Star Trek ever. None of them. Not even the TV series. Nothing. All I know is that the bald guy is the captain. It's not even bald. That's somebody else.
Anywho,
William Shatner.
Yeah, the Shat. So, oh my goodness, bad sequels.
Another one that people say is bad, but I love, and I'll watch them. Watch them all and love them. Look Who's Talking, Look Who's Talking 2, and Look Who's Talking Now. You got, what is there not to love? You got Kirstie Alley, you've got John Travolta, you got Bruce Willis's voice. Like, what's not to love?
And then Roseanne. Oh, that's what's not to love. I remember. And then it's the dog. I was like putting this out there. None of those movies are good.
I beg your pardon? Those are the greatest.
Nope.
Best soundtrack in a movie ever. They got Walking on Sunshine. It's great. Love it. Love it.
Best soundtrack ever.
One of them. It's up there for sure.
I say Forrest Gump's best soundtrack ever. Forrest Gump.
Yeah, do you have any that people don't like that you like?
Ooh, that people don't like that honestly, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Love that movie. So bad. Highlander 2. Everybody hates Highlander 2 because it ends up being a dream. And like Lost sort of thing. Yeah.
Sorry, if you're mad, if you get triggered that I just ruined Lost for you, it's past the statute of limitations.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't add us on Twitter, Facebook, or anything. We don't care. The series has been done for 10 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, like that's the big thing I find with and it's all about perception, right? It's like whether or not you like it. I like the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. Fight me. I don't care.
I will fight you.
Yeah, good.
The
Squeakle.
Anytime it's Christmas, I'm always watching every single one of the Home Alone movies. All of them.
All 5?
All 5. I got to. It's my thing. I love Home Alone.
The first 2 are so good. And then
but people
the rest.
think the second one's bad. No. How can you say it's bad? The kid gets an RC car from an old lady next door. There is a microchip that these bad guys want that's in the RC car. The story writes itself. It's a tale as old as time. This summer, actually Christmas, because it's a Christmas movie. This Christmas, kid shovels snow out of driveways. I'm bad at being a movie voice. Shovel snow out of driveways to get an RC car that the bad guys want. He must defend his house. He creates a zip line from his house to his tree fort. It is amazing. Movie writes itself. Literally, you cannot find a better movie about an RC car out there anywhere. Hands down. I'd even put that movie up above, like, no, never mind. We're gonna save that. I was gonna put it above a movie, but it's too good. I can't put it up against that. It's a good movie, not a great movie.
Oh, it is not a good movie.
All right, moving on to we haven't even mentioned our guest this week. It is the biggest guest we've had on the podcast to date. He is a guy that I met back in September. Started messaging on the old Twitter, and he was able to help my dad make his dream come true and take him to an NHL game. We've got Paul Bissonnette of Spittin Chiclets, former Arizona Coyotes forward, not a big deal, and he's on the podcast.
What a great interview you did with him, and yeah, after some ads that I just realized aren't going to have any video that goes with them on YouTube.
We can. Chris, that's easy. You got time.
Yeah, tons. Right after we hear from our sponsors, we're going to hear Josh and Paul Bissonnette, Mr. Biznasty himself. Great interview. Enjoy, I suppose. Not a big
Hit them ads. Also, our official sponsor this week on the podcast, Pink Whitney by New Amsterdam Vodka, officially unofficial.
Hey fans, we know you're on Twitter and you're on Facebook. You're on social media getting breaking news the minute it happens. Well, good news, so are we. Innovative Hybrid Wrestling has social media covered. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. We post everything you need to know about Innovative Hybrid Wrestling, so make sure you're following us so you're the first to get the inside scoop.
At Spinnet Records and Video, we pride ourselves on having some unique and really cool items and attractions. Come in and check out our classic arcade. Our gift cards available in $5, $10, and $20 denominations. When you're here, go see our movie rental section sporting 35,000 DVDs, over 2,000 Blu-rays, including a large selection of Francophone films, and a huge selection of video games for rent. Make sure you check out our vinyl section. We have more vinyl than you can shake a stick at. For more information, go to spin-hitrecords.ca. We're at 467A Main Street in Moncton, open 7 days a week. Video store 10 to 10, record store 10 to 8, Sundays 12 to 5. I love to read comic books, and man, do I love playing board games. That's why I go to Comic Hunter. Comic Hunter has Atlantic Canada's largest selection of comic books, graphic novels, board games, and manga. Plus, they have toys, action figures, statues, and much, much more. ComicHunter.net has a blog and Magic the Gathering web store. Events every single night, Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering board games, Star Wars X-Wing, and much more.
Ladies and gentlemen, they have mangas, buy 3, get 1 free. Used graphic novels, buy 1, get 1. Plus the dollar bin of comics, thousands of comic books, up to 50% off the more you buy. Check out comichunter.net. They have a knowledgeable staff, plus Matt Surrett's there too. Open Monday to Friday, 10 to 10, Saturday, 10 to 9, Sunday, 12 to 6. Location is Moncton, 467 Main Street, Suite 300, and in Charlottetown, 181 Queen Street. That's right, Comic Hunter, where heroes come to play.
For all your hauling needs, call Brace & Son Enterprises, TPC Network's newest sponsor. Call them at 506-381-8178. They haul material, and in the winter, they do snow plowing and snow blowing. Call Brace & Son Enterprises.
All right, we are here with our guest this week. You might have seen him from Spittin Chiclets podcast, or before that, he was a regular enforcer and goal scorer in the NHL, Paul Bissonnette. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
I mean, no lies detected. I did have 7. That's more than 1.
Well, we're going to touch on some of your goal scoring, but first we want to get right into it. When did you first fall in love with hockey?
Oh, that's a great question. My mother used to bring me public skating in Welland at the main arena. She worked at the Niagara College, and my father worked at a steel mill, so he was unable to do so during the day. And I believe it was Friday afternoons they had open skating, and that's where I learned how to skate. And then eventually, like every young Canadian, I was put into to Timbits, or the younger version of House League, and from there on out, I just fell more and more in love with it. Early on in my career, I wasn't necessarily a standout player and was often cut from the AAA teams, but I think that in the long run, that made me love the game more, because playing down a level, it made me at least be on a level playing field where it wasn't. I wasn't discouraged by not getting as much ice time or not being a decent player. So that's when I kind of found my love. And all of a sudden, when contact came in Pee Wee minors, when things escalated, and that's where I thought, maybe I could eventually get a scholarship out of this or play major junior. And that's when the love really grew, and that's when it became more of an obsession.
So for people that don't know, that you can either go 2 routes after Pee Wee Bant.
Here's
you go the major. Yeah,
it's changed, right? It used to be Bantam Major. Now I believe it's midget.
Midget, and then you can go either junior A, then University College, or you could go OHL, Quebec Major Junior, or WHL. You had to choose one. If you go to one, you can't go to the other.
Yeah, typically you would find late bloomers go play junior B and start developing their skills to the point of, I don't know, probably around 18, 19. I was a pretty big kid. By the time I was drafted into the OHL, I was 6'2", 210, 215 as a 16-year-old, right? Jeez. So I was already a man. And I mean, I think we know, as far as my book intelligence, that's no secret to anyone, that major junior was something that I really, really wanted to do. And my goal was to be drafted in the first 2 rounds of the Bantam draft. And fortunately for me, I kept progressing when contact did come into play. And at the time I was a defenseman, and I was drafted 31st overall by the North Bay Centennials. That's the second round of the OHL entry draft. And that was, they actually came and visited my house, the scouts, and I was very comfortable with the people that came over. I think that they drafted on character, and I came from a good household. I mentioned my father was a steel mill worker, and my mother was a college professor, and I think that they did a good job in raising me. And I think that maybe that stood out to them, and I'm pretty sure that's why they ended up picking me, and it worked out all right.
So during your time in the OHL, you actually got to compete for World Junior under 18 twice, win 2 gold medals. Not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
What was it like getting to represent your country and going forward? And not only did you get drafted to the OHL, and you're also getting to represent Canada.
Yeah. So what was fortunate for me is I always stayed focused on these like little achievements where I mentioned, getting to the OHL and being drafted in the first 2 rounds was huge, because then I got to go play as a 16-year-old. So getting that 1 year of experience at that level as a 16-year-old, to me, I thought was very beneficial. And because I was able to not only achieve that and make the North Bay Centennials as a 16-year-old, I was then selected for the Christmas tournament for under 17. And at that point in time, I represented Team Ontario, so it wasn't Team Canada. They had Team Pacific. They had what were the other ones? Jesus, I'm drawing blanks here. They had the Maritimes, of course. I think Stephen Dixon ended up playing for the Maritimes because he was in Halifax. But I think there was a total of 5 Canadian teams, and it was in Selkirk, Stonewall, Manitoba. And that was a great experience. I think that ended up leading me to end up getting selected to go to the under 18 summer camp, which was a harder team to make than actually the under 18 world championship, which has ended up being in April after my second year in the OHL. And that's when every kid who, the best kids across Canada ended up going to camp in Alberta. I made that, and then we ended up going over to Piešťany, Slovakia. So that was the first time I'd actually been overseas. And that was a very cool experience. I got to play with Dion Phaneuf, Brent Seabrook. The list goes on. I think Jeff Carter made that team as well. It was a crazy draft, the 03 draft. And these are all the guys that I got to go with. Now, shifting the focus, though, to the after my second year in the OHL, which was actually played with the Saginaw Spirit because our team from North Bay was sold there. But we didn't make playoffs, so I was able to attend that World Championship. And, guys like Ryan Getzlov went to that one. Brent Seabrook was there as well. And that was cool because you were seeing the top-end competition from across the world. Like, I played against Ovechkin in that tournament. And, I got to see him for the first time. And that was my first time going to Russia, too. That was fucking wild. And our first game was actually against the Russians, and we lost 6-3, opening game of the tournament. And it was all these people in these army trench coats and those Russian army hats. And it was fucking intimidating. And they were yelling and whistling the whole game. And I couldn't even think straight. So a very cool experience. We ended up winning that. So that's, winning the World Championship under 18 was very special and cool.
So you get drafted, as you just said. You went on to play a couple more years in junior. You went to the ECHL. You were an all-star. You were drafted to the all-star team of the ECHL. How can you explain the difference between ECHL, AHL, and NHL for people? Because the way I've heard it explained is like real tough guy. Like there's real tough guys trying to cut their teeth in the ECHL. Then you got ACHL, which is like a jungle, and then you got the NHL, which is all skill.
I wasn't fighting much when I was playing in the ECHL. I was more focused on developing my game and playing at the pro level. It just so happens that they drafted quite a few defensemen into the Pittsburgh system when I finally came up. And I got weeded out of training camp. I got to spend some time in the ECHL and play. It was fun. That was the last time I truly got to enjoy hockey, where Glenn Patrick would put me out on the ice. If I made a mistake, it wasn't a big deal. I still saw my next shift. And, with that type of rope, I had success. You mentioned the 2-time ECHL All-Star, not a big deal. But as far as like toughness, I wouldn't put that anywhere near as the toughness at the AHL level. And the reason I say that, at the time that I ended up finally establishing myself at the AHL level, when they ended up switching me to forward, there was a line in the sand pretty much saying, you're not good enough to make it as a defenseman, but we believe that you could play a fourth line role because you're somewhat of a decent skater. We think you're competent. And also we believe you're willing to fight AHL heavyweights, which in that case, you'd definitely be willing to fight NHL heavyweights. And at that point in time is when the true meatheads of the NHL were slowly being weeded out. So they were finding themselves in the American Hockey League. And I remember my first 2 years in the American Hockey League, when I switched to that role, I had back-to-back 30-fight seasons. And that was tough. That was a mental grind, a physical grind. I took a pounding because I hadn't really been fighting to that magnitude at all in my life. I was always willing to fight, but it was more so guys who were also decent players. Never was I going toe to toe with meatheads. So that was a definitely a wake up call, and definitely what eventually led me to playing in the NHL for the short amount of time that I did.
Well, so let's talk about fighting. Your first fight was when you were with the Pittsburgh Penguins. What was it like that day? Your first, well, not the day, but your first fight. And did you know that going into that game that you were expected to fight? And
Well, so when I ended up getting called up to the American League, my first game was against the Philadelphia Phantoms, and I didn't know that they never had the conversation with me. My name was listed as a fourth line left winger. And I knew that they'd called me up just because maybe they want a little bit of toughness, and Philly was always a tough team to play. And it was, the writing was on the wall, and no pun intended. And it was just kind of a quick decision that I'd made. And I had a conversation with myself being like, hey, if you want to ever have a sniff at making NHL paychecks and also playing at that level, I think that at least with this organization, this is how it's going to have to be done. And one of the questions I always get asked is, what type of advice do you have for young guys coming up? And every guy who gets drafted, especially nowadays, is drafted because they're the best players at that level. Well, you end up going to the NHL and you're talking about the top. There's only so much space. If you're going to be a top 6 forward, you have to have elite level skill, world-class skill. And even for a guy who played, under 17, under 18, and, dominated in junior, ECHL All-Star, I had nowhere near the amount of skill that these top end guys had. So do you want to stay stubborn and maybe try to make it with another organization in that role that you think you are good enough to play in? And, or do you want to adapt your role and find a place to play at the NHL level? And that's basically the decision that I had made on the spot. And that's why when people ask that advice, I say, don't stay stubborn in your role. Like you've played a certain way your whole life and it's gotten you to this point. If you want to stay stubborn, it might only lead you to being an AHL All-Star. It might only lead you to being a star forward overseas or playing in the KHL. But if you want to play in the NHL, I mean, look at a guy like Brad Richardson, and this is the example I always use. I played with him with the Owen Sound Attack in my last year. He was a 40-goal scorer in the OHL. Well, what's he do now? He's a fourth line center. He kills penalties. He blocks shots, and he's like a shutdown centerman. He's good in the draw. He's good in the faceoff circles, and he developed all these other facets of his game in order to just hang around. And I mean, 12 to 15 years later, and a lot of paychecks and a lot of one ways. And I think that in a Stanley Cup as well, I think he's happy with the decision he made and not staying stubborn in what maybe his role was in junior, but adapting to the pro level and where that skill level brought him.
so your first NHL goal, I want you to be honest with me here. Did you intend to touch that puck or?
No, my first NHL goal was actually against Carey Price. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Is that good? But I think we were down 2-0 at the time at home, and Heshka, a defenseman that it was up and down for organization that year, he shot it from the point. I was just trying to get to the blue paint and create some type of screen, and it ended up hitting my foot going in, and they had to review it, but they're like, hey, this guy wasn't even looking at the puck, so clearly he didn't mean to kick it. And it counted, and chalk went up for Biznasty.
So I got some while we're talking about some of the stuff. I got some fan questions, and they want to know who has the heaviest hands that you've ever encountered.
I would probably say Jeremy Yablonsky, and he played with the Binghamton Senators, and I actually had to fight him twice in one game because he took liberties on a few of my teammates. And that's one thing. I know I wasn't the toughest guy, and I was a bit of a speed bag, especially during those 2 years in the American League that I described about taking my lickings against these meatheads. But he bambied me in both fights in that same game. But that's not why I was doing it. I was creating a distraction to take him off the ice and allow my teammates to skate around, not having to worry about taking those heavy hands.
So is there a difference, and still we're staying on the fighting fan questions, is there a difference between a playoff fight and a regular season fight? Because I remember there was a fight you had with Chicago in the
Yeah, Brendan
playoffs, and that
Bollig.
and that fight was like intense. Is there a difference for you as a player between a playoff fight and a regular season fight?
I would say no, but the reason that that fight had so much on it was the fact that the game before it was when Rafi Torres delivered the hit on Marian Hossa. And that whole series was the most dramatic playoff experience I've ever been through in my entire life. Not just in the fact that Chicago, at that time, they were in the midst of their dynasty. Hossa being, one of the best two-way players to ever play the game, and the fact that Rafi Torres was such a polarizing player, and he was known for those types of hits. I don't have a comment on whether it was clean or dirty. I think to today's standards and at that period of time, it had shifted. So maybe to today's standards, it's completely unacceptable. But just the fact that he delivered that hit with so much velocity, and it was the hit heard around the NHL. I believe he got 15 games for that.
It was a crazy amount of games.
We're talking playoffs here. Like, we thought maybe 2-3 games in playoffs, which, I mean, we always count them as double. But, and also people also forget in the midst of that series was when Shaw ended up hitting Smitty. And I would say he more nudged him, and Smitty sold it. And I think Shaw ended up getting a game. So there was so much fucking drama associated with this series on top of the fact that I got inserted into the lineup to fight Bollig. And it was more of like a cockfight. Like, he was sticking up for his squad. And I was like, I know I got to answer the bell to back them off and calm this away crowd down in order to keep our guys at bay. And I actually forgot to do my tie down. And I ended up, so I'll give you the whole rundown of how this happens. I know I'm fighting Bollig. Like, we know the tension's high in warm up. So whistle goes, it was an offside. Tip's like, yeah, you guys are up because we have to decide first. And as soon as I jump over the boards, Bollig's staring at Quinville, and Quinville gives him the nod. He jumps out, and we know what's happening. We're on the far side, and the puck drops. So 1 second into my shift, boom, we go at it. Good spirited scrap. At the end of the scrap, I knew this fight was going down, and after warm up, this is the first time in my career I'd forgotten to put my tie down on. I couldn't fucking believe it. And when that happens, you end up getting tossed from the game, which is a bullshit rule anyway. And that was it. 1 second.
That's still the rule?
1 second in that playoff game. And I was very, very disappointed, not only because, like, I got to play at the United Center in one of the few playoff games I got the dress for, but the fact that now I sunk our lines to three full lines plus 2 extras. Well, fortunately, Mikkel Bodker ended up scoring one of his 2 overtime winners in that series, which was a squeaker between Corey Crawford's legs. So crisis averted. That was not going to be the topic of discussion. And that was, I think, I didn't see another playoff game till the conference finals against LA. So that was a wild one. That was a wild series, and we ended up winning that one in 6. And that was the greatest run in Coyotes history, conference finals.
Who would you say your biggest rival was in the NHL? We've got Cam Jansen, George Peros, Ronaldo's been a thorn in your side. Who would you think you'd say was your biggest rival, and that you enjoyed getting to play against them because you knew you were just going to have a good spirited game?
I would say Chris Barch, and he was with Dallas at the time. And there's another guy who was a very decent player growing up. I think he was close to a point a game in the ECHL as a forward. And another guy who I think that had to make a decision on whether he wanted to add that to his game or not. And he spent a couple summers getting involved in MMA and the grappling aspect and the boxing. And he ended up shifting the focus and having a decent career in the NHL. I think I fought him 3 or 4 times. And there were always even scraps too. So that's why we loved it. And that was a division rival at the time, because Tippett had came over from Dallas and they had Steve Ott. So those games always had a little extra juice on them.
So in the lockout shortened season, you went over to England to play hockey.
Yeah.
And you tore it up. You had 6 goals and 19 points in 10 games. Did any party you just want to stay there and keep lighting it up, or?
No, I was a little bit of a nervous wreck towards the end, just for for 2 reasons. The weather there was very rainy and it was always dark. I think it rained there for like 3 straight weeks at one point. And given the fact that the lockout was going on, and I definitely wasn't making the NHL money that I was supposed to, it was just wearing on me a little bit. Now, I lied earlier in the podcast where I said that in the ECHL, that was the last time I got to enjoy hockey at the pro level, to where I just got to play. That was not including the EIHL, and it was a great experience. The culture was awesome. The people were amazing. And it was great. You just got to go to bars and drink pints and shoot the shit. A couple of weird things that I noticed is people would just get so drunk that they would pass out at bars, and the bouncers nor the management would never kick them out. It was just cool. It was a very unique experience, and I'm so grateful that I decided to do it. But by the end of it, I was excited to get back here and get the NHL season going again.
So the last question I have about your playing career is, you won the Calder Cup in your second last year in the AHL. What was that like, that experience?
My third last year. My last 2 seasons were played in Ontario with the Reign, which was when they introduced that Western Conference AHL division, which, by the way, fucking awesome. And they just keep adding teams. Like they had San Diego when I was there, and they just added Henderson, Nevada, which is just outside of Vegas, and Palm Springs is getting a team. So this is
road trips are going to be beautiful there.
Oh my goodness, they better fucking pack the Z packs, that's for sure. But the Calder Cup was a big thing for me, because the way that season had started, where I didn't have a job, and I basically knew my NHL career had came to an end before my eyes. But I couldn't even get a job in the American League because I'd waited so long, because I was supposed to sign with Washington, but they couldn't get rid of an NHL contract. Erskine's had some neck issues, but he was still under contract, and I think they were trying to move him in order to free up a contract space. Didn't work out. I ended up going to St. Louis's camp, and after the PTO, went home, and I was on the couch for a month. So I fell into a bit of a depression. Was fortunate enough where the Coyotes ended up signing me to a PTO with their American League affiliate in Portland with the Pirates. And it just, for the first time in a while, I just went to a team that I didn't feel comfortable with. I didn't really gel well with the guys. I wasn't crazy, about the team environment, and they were struggling a little bit. And right down the road, about an hour away in Manchester, my old junior coach, Mike Stuthers, he was coaching there, and Mike Futa, who was the GM in Owen Sound when Mike Stuthers was my coach in junior, he was also with the Kings organization at the time. And I talked to them through the few times we played them during the season when I was with Portland, and I kind of sensed that my time was coming to an end. And I said, hey, if you need a guy and somebody to protect all these young assets you have, I'd love to come over and play for you again, Stutzy. And sure enough, when I got snipped, I fell right back into that depression after I got released from my PTO. And I reached out to him. I said, Stutzy, I said, I'm in a bad place. If you guys could sign me to a PTO, I think I could come in and help you guys out. And it worked out perfect. I really gelled with the guys on that team. They had such a wonderful group of guys, and I'm forever grateful that they, Futs and Stutzy, gave me the opportunity to jump on board. And from the start of that season to the end was a complete 180. And, that's why I owe the game of hockey so much, because of, it took me out of the dark times and gave me a purpose in life when I didn't have one.
Is it true that that's the season that your Twitter was taken away from you?
Well, it wasn't taken away. What happened was is when I'd grown a pretty big social media following, but I at that point I was pretty inactive, just the fact that I wasn't in a happy place, and I didn't have a contract, and and at that point in time too, Twitter and social media were starting to become toxic, where anything you said was being scrutinized and you were being labeled as something. But when I called Futs and Stutzy to ask for that job, they said, "Hey, let me check with Dean Lombardi." And at the time, their organization wasn't really down with the way the Coyotes were as far as the social media antics were concerned. So Dean Lombardi said, "Hey, I don't have a problem with you guys, putting him on a PTO to protect the young guys in match, but under one condition. He stays the fuck off Twitter." So I had no problem, and we had a good chuckle. He was half kidding, but obviously didn't want me getting up to my old antics. But it was a good time for me to just get away for those 3 years where I was nowhere near as active as I was beforehand, and obviously afterward, given with where the career has gone post career. So I thought it was a funny story when his exact quote was, "Tell him to stay the fuck off Twitter." And with the respect I have for Dean Lombardi, and given the fact that he gave me that purpose in life again, I'm forever grateful, and I would have done anything he asked.
So after your 2 seasons with the Ontario Reign, how did you segue into what you're doing now? How did you find that avenue of being in the media?
I think given the social media presence, that it was just something that I think I wanted to do post career. I wasn't exactly sure what it was. My last year was a tough one for me on the injury front, and that just goes to show where not only how important taking care of yourself is, but also the speed of the game. And as my body was breaking down, it took more and more out of me to try to keep up to these young guys. And I actually tore both my ACLs in my last year. And when I tore my right one, which was the first one to go down, that Christmas, as I was prehabbing to try to make a comeback just to finish the end of the season, I met with the Coyotes, and they had a job opening as a radio color guy. And Rich Nair, who was always kind to me when I played with the Coyotes and saw that social media following grow, he thought, "Hey, this is the perfect place for you. We could use you, off the ice and in promotion, and doing all these funny, silly things that maybe we think where it's all headed, which is the social media component, which has grown tenfold in the past 5 years." And we basically hashed out where I was going to come work for the team. So I had a job lined up. But now, saying that, when I retired from the game, I ended up doing that film project right away. That was the first thing in media I did. Biz Does BC is the name of it, because I just wanted to open up different avenues and become comfortable in front of the camera. Maybe not so just like doing your typical, hockey commentary, but seeing where else it could take me. Because I don't really like following order. I like being my own boss, and also trying to be as creative as possible, because my mind is constantly going. So it with the social media platform being what it was, and knowing I was getting into media, it just kind of brought me in that direction. And then sure enough, at the end of that season, when that project was finally all edited and done, and I wanted to release it, and it hadn't yet found a home, is when I reached out to Whit, who originally wanted me to start the podcast with him. When they'd already established it, I said, "Hey, why don't I join you in RA, and we can create that Canadian presence?" And the rest is history. And another thing is, I'm forever grateful for, is the fact that I took the initiative to reach out and want to join that podcast, and happy they took me in, because it's taken on a mind of its own.
So on the Biznasty Does BC front, why did you choose BC? What drew you to want to explore BC?
After my first or second year playing with the Coyotes, I'd befriended Boyd Gordon. And at the time, I was going back to Welland every summer, and I don't know, as a mid-20s guy, there wasn't really much for me. I was single. I wanted to try a summer where I went somewhere, because I'd met a few buddies in Vegas who were from there, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you and Gordo come up?" Because Gordo was actually with me during All-Star break when we met these characters from Vancouver. So I told Gordo, I said, "Why don't we go rent a place downtown Vancouver for the summer? We'll go train there. There's ice time. There's other hockey guys around, and let's try it out." And the rest is history. Boyd Gordon lives in Vancouver still. And it's such a beautiful, unique place where I'd met all my new friends who helped me grow as a person and introduced me to different things that I'm now interested in life. And I just, another thing that I was grateful for, and I wanted to show people on my platform, which was Twitter and Instagram, what BC had to offer. And I consider it my second home now.
Now, you and I got to know each other this past fall. I sent out a tweet for, most people know the story on the podcast. I sent you a tweet in September, and you actually got to help make my dad's dream come true of going to meet Austin Matthews and go to a Toronto game at the Canadian Tire Center. Can you explain from your perspective how that experience was? Because everyone knows from my view, how grateful I am, and I am, once again, thank you beyond words for making that come true. From your perspective, how did you feel with that?
Oh God. Okay. So this whole breakdown now, that was one of the cooler things I've ever gotten to do. And I believe a little bit earlier in the year, we'd started, or we had this idea of doing NHL first timer. And it was with Heidi Browning from the NHL. And people throw out requests all the time on Twitter. So some days it's just like it's overwhelming, right? Because you want to be able to touch the whole hockey community, and especially people that are in need. And I remember seeing yours. I screenshotted it. I sent it to Pasha, and we sent it and talked to the NHL, and they said, "Yeah, this is definitely something that we'd like to do." And then, of course, I ended up reaching out to you. Pasha reached out to you as well, and it was such a touching story. And fortunately, we were able to execute it. And I think, given with what hockey has given me in life, I like doing these types of pieces where we're able to give back. And right time, right place, man. I mean, thank you for sending the message. I mean, we talk all the time now. I've ended up making friends with you and your family. Actually, speaking of that, look what I got here. That nice tea. The
tea steeper. Nice.
The tea steeper, which is a nice gift that your mom sent after we got that whole thing done with. But at the time, I didn't even know what Lewy bodies was, and once researching it, it's such a devastating thing, and we thought it would be nice to be able to provide you and your family that memory in the hockey community, given what hockey's provided me. So we just try to pay it forward, man. And like I said, it couldn't have worked out better, and it was great meeting you and your entire family. And it's just unfortunate given the circumstances as to why we had to meet. But I hope he's doing all right. I know that trip did take a little bit out of him, given the emotional aspect attached to it.
Oh yeah, he slept for like a week after that trip, like out like a rock. But
that might have been the edibles, though.
It very well could have been. Yeah.
we were hitting the edibles pretty hard on that trip. That's for sure.
Which leads me to my next question: is that you're CBD friendly? You're very proactive about being CBD friendly, and you quite enjoyed the New Brunswick marijuana.
Yeah.
So how it's a very hard topic to come out as being CBD friendly, because at the time when you came out about it, it was such a negative stigma about it. It wasn't quite legal yet, but it wasn't illegal.
Yeah, I didn't really give a fuck, to be honest, about like what people associated to it, given the information that at that point in time people had known, where it was just like, I feel like everybody was just sitting back being like, oh, like who's going to be the first one to talk about it? Where it's like, well, I consider drinking alcohol to be far more harmful than taking CBD or marijuana. Now, going to the natural remedies as I do, I think that has a lot to do with maybe the damage that I'd caused my body, not only during my career, but maybe even before it began at the pro level. I drank and did a lot of drugs, a lot of hard drugs. And, I think that that's affected my body in a negative way, where as you start getting older, you try to find ways in order to get up and have good productivity out of your body, maybe where you did have it when you were 22. And, given with the workload now is when I get up, I try to take every natural approach in order to optimizing, my potential as a human being. And I feel like CBD and also cannabis provides that. Um, I've toned it down more so on the cannabis side of things, and definitely do a lot more CBD. Now, saying that, when it comes to the creative aspect, I believe the THC side helps a lot. But as far as CBD, it just helps with the swelling and the pain and the anxiety that I face on a day-to-day basis. And I want to take natural approaches in order to healing that. I mean, I've been very vocal about my mushroom use as well. And there's even more development about how people are finding using mushrooms to try to, maybe heal the body and also mind based on past traumatic experience they've dealt with and been through, and they're finding scientific research that backs it, and I can do so without further consequences to harming my body. Now, there's still a lot of research to be had on how that pans out in the end on the mushroom side of things, but I've had a lot of positive experiences with it. And another thing that I plan on being more vocal about in the future, when maybe there's more information at our fingertips about that. But more and more is coming out as we speak, and there doesn't seem to be many negative consequences. And same goes for CBD and cannabis.
Yeah, and you said that it's not proven to be as harmful or as bad as drinking, but you have your own type of drink sitting right over your shoulder there. Spittin Chiclets, Pink Whitney from New Amsterdam Vodka. What was that whole process like to getting that started, getting that off the ground?
Pink Whitney was an idea created by Ryan Whitney, my co-host on Spittin Chiclets, and me having that entrepreneur slash business mind, I said, that's genius. And it's such a tasty beverage. Let's do it. Now, going to the alcohol consumption side of things, I think everything is good in moderation. And the reason why I think I'm in rougher shape than maybe some is just at the access that I used to drink. Now, shifting back to the Pink Whitney side of it, is I thought it would be cool to create the John Daly slash Arnold Palmer of the hockey community. Like what's the hockey community's drink in order to celebrate what brings us joy? And fortunately, with the popularity of the podcast, it's something that we can connect with our fans on the alcohol side, which is, I mean, it kind of ties in perfectly with hockey. I mean, I haven't had a drink since December 31st of 2019, but that's just more so for the workload purposes. And when that all slows down, eventually, I plan on ramping that back up. But it has been a blast. The only negative about it is, as I wish it could be a little bit cheaper for my friends north of the border, because
It's even not that bad.
well, hey,
At price point.
If you're not complaining, then I'm happy about that. But the fact that the American friends can get it at 11, 12 bucks a pop, and it's costing you guys, 28 to 30 bucks. I just wish it could be a little bit cheaper, but then again, free healthcare, probably no complaints on that side of things. And I tell you what, man, like, it just goes back to what I was saying about my playing career. I'm so grateful for everything that's happened past it, because it's allowed me to stick around the game and connect with people that love and enjoy the game of hockey just as much as we do.
You are also Budweiser's an affiliate of Budweiser. You got to do the Budweiser Fan of the Year, I think it was called.
It was called the CHO, the Chief Hockey Officer.
Right.
That was fun. I actually just did we did a couple barbecue Budweiser Battle of the Grills. So we did one with Brent Burns and Joe Thornton.
I
So
just
there's
saw that
another-
was posted today.
Yeah, it was posted. Yeah, I posted a couple days ago. I just retweeted. That's probably where you saw it. But that's another thing too, is like, I was just some fourth line plug who got to live out every Canadian's dream of playing in the NHL. And part of me starting social media and doing all this stuff is to give all the hockey fans and the ones who maybe, strive to maybe one day get there on their own, give them an inside look as to like how cool it is and being around like I got to just do a content piece with Brent Burns and Joe Thornton. I mean, by the time, they're all said and done, they'll probably both be Hall of Famers. And then we just ended up doing one with Tom Wilson and Darnell Nurse. We even got to do one with today. I did one with Travis Kelce and George Kittle, who faced off in the Super Bowl. So the doors that it's opened for me, it has been amazing. And just to connect with all these amazing athletes and people has been a joy. And Budweiser Canada has been such an awesome, I guess, what would you say that?
Ambassador.
Ambassador / partnership. And I'm forever grateful. So it's been a pretty wild ride, man, and I hope we can keep going and keep opening up different doors and giving more and more people an inside look into the greatest game in the world.
Well, I got to talk to two guys that you met on that Budweiser campaign run, and they said the boys from On the Bench said that they're paid off by Budweiser to let you win. They wanted an underdog story as the narrative for that video piece, and so they said they're paid off with some Tic Tacs and some Big Macs, and they gave you the win.
First of all, those guys are awesome. And there's a prime example of, I think that the hockey community is starving for different types of personalities, whereas those guys went from making videos on their local rink. And I remember retweeting them for the first time when they did two of their videos, the blocking shots, the Tartarella special, and the one where they were skating around on their actual blades on cement and sparks were flying. And I'm like, who the fuck are these clowns? And sure enough, they ended up being in a Budweiser commercial with Wayne Gretzky. Like, you know what I'm saying? That just goes to show, guys and girls, put yourself out there, and who knows where the world can bring you. And, did I ever think that starting a Twitter account or Instagram and being a clown on social media would have opened all these doors for me? No. But if you put yourself out there, I'm sure that the world will bring you some pretty cool places. And it's just a kudos to those guys for establishing themselves as caricatures in the hockey world.
Awesome. I know you're a busy man. You got places to be. I got two more fan questions, and then we'll call it a day.
No problem.
How has having the youngest GM in NHL history and a former small-town hockey player influenced the Coyotes in gaining fast success over the past few seasons?
Well, I think that Chaika's done a great job, and he's really exercised the CBA and used some rules in order to gain the organization some advantages. I mean, we ended up taking on Hosa's backloaded contract. We ended up getting Hinostroza and Osterley out of that. And he's made some other smart moves and signings. And, I would imagine that the older heads probably weren't crazy about a GM at the age of 27 years of age, the youngest general manager in professional sports history. But he's shown that he's capable of doing it. He wakes up every day with trying to prove a point and trying to establish himself as one of the best. And I think that, given the resources maybe the Coyotes had in the past and being behind the eight ball as far as the budget and money to spend, I think he's done a mighty fine job. And I hope that he can keep clawing for every inch in order to put them into a situation where they're looked at as one of the better teams in the league. And that's going to take a lot more work and time, but getting a new owner, Morello, helped out big time as well.
Well, and it's proper drafting as well. You look at like guys he's drafted, like Connor Garland, who stayed down for so long, and then he took over, and Connor Garland gets into the lineup, and he's a success. It's just crazy. And then the final question.
I think that any team is going to have depth draft picks end up stepping up and making a difference at some point if you're going to have any type of success as an organization. And Connor Garland is a great example of that. I'd say he's one of the better bargains in the NHL, if not the best bargain. We got him locked up at 2 years at, I believe, $750 average salary, and he's a 30 goal scorer, so that's pretty good. We got one more year at that deal, so great job by Chikes on that signing as well.
And then you shared a locker room with two guys that were open about being pretty big wrestling fans, Jason LaBarbera and Keith Yandel.
Yeah.
Who do you think was the more passionate wrestling fan, and which one instituted the belt as the player of the game award?
I believe the belt was a collective contribution from Jans, Shane Doan, and Jason LaBarbera. Jason LaBarbera is far and above, though. probably the most knowledgeable when it comes to wrestling. And he used to watch all the old cassette tapes. Well, not, I guess at that point it was transferred to DVD and or streaming, but like the ones of like the Ultimate Warrior and the Andre the Giant, and even though they'd know the outcome, him and Yans would sit next to each other on the team flight and watch these reruns and be getting excited knowing that who was going to win still.
Well, it's been great catching up with you. I know you're a busy man and you've got your big esports NHL 20 game tonight. So good luck with that.
Bud, good chatting with you. Tell the old man I said hello. Tell the mom thanks for what do you call these things? Tea what?
It's like a David C. tea steeper.
Tea steeper. All right, I'm gonna have to remember that. Delicious tea, by the way, too. So thank you for the gift. Tell your brother I said hi as well, and congratulations, and good luck on to your wife on giving birth to your first child.
Thank you. It's much appreciated.
Anytime.
Ladies and gentlemen, what an interview with Paul Bissonnette. Wow, that guy. Literally, I asked him, like, when can you come on the podcast? Can you even come on the podcast? And he's like, I'm free in 45 minutes. And I was like, whoa, okay, Chris, can we do this? And he goes, and you're like, I really can't make it, but here, I'll let you record the interview this week. And I got to chat with Paul. We ran out of time at the end a little bit. He has a lot of engagements. He was busy with a Twitch thing where he does 2 people play NHL 20 against each other for Barstool Sports, and his podcast Spittin Chiclets. We talk about Spittin Chiclets. We talk about his career. We talk about how he's pro CBD, and he explains actually why he's pro CBD and not just like, oh, I like getting high. He literally gives reasons and actual science. It was just a great interview.
Yeah, like he's so genuinely positive about things. And he was talking up the guys from on the bench, even though we tried to get a gag going. And
we tried to get him to like talk some smack, and he's like, "Oh, those guys are great.
Yeah, they're awesome."
I was like, "Come on, man!" But no, it was a great interview, and like it feels so. He's one of those people. When I was first about to meet him, like when I had to go pick him up at the airport when he came to New Brunswick, and I was like so nervous. I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like it's Paul Bissonnette, like. Holy, I'm gonna like, whoa. And he was literally the nicest, and he's the easiest guy to talk to. It feels so natural talking to him. Doesn't feel like he's a celebrity at all. He is just like an all-around guy's guy, just wants to be one of the boys.
100%. And he has really good liquor.
Oh, I have 2 bottles in my fridge, and I barely drink ever. I drank like a sip of it in like 5 beer the other day at the diaper party, and I was so hungover the next day. It was ridiculous.
Next day, I went to the chocolate factory the next day.
You did? How would you get any good chocolate?
We did. We got some of the hand dip stuff from my in-laws and my cat sitter, house sitter.
Did they wear gloves when they hand dipped it? Because, pandemic?
They wore gloves anyway in the hand dipping process.
All right. So normally we go into our ending segment, but I want to bring a new segment to the show, like I normally do. And this one's going to be called Party Starters. It's a conversation starter at any party. It's how to get the conversation going and break the ice.
All right.
So, Chris, here's my question for you. Would you rather have to run everywhere you go or have to yell everything you say?
Ooh. Both of those would use significant lung capacity. I'm gonna go with yelling because it's kind of natural for me to be loud anyway.
But like, you're a teacher though. Like, can you imagine if like you're just yelling all day throughout your day, and you're not like, "Hey kids, 2 + 2 is 4." You're like, "Hey kid," you're like, "Hey, 2 + 2 is 4."
I think it's worth it. I think it'd be great.
Do you have somewhere to be? Am I keeping you from something, or
no? Nope.
No,
sorry.
You just keep checking your watch.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple messages while I've been going. So
okay.
Yeah. Don't worry.
I'm surprised that You don't have like, is it digital or does it have the dials? Because I know old people, they need the dials to tell where the clock is.
No, it has like a thing sticking out of it that shows a shadow that goes around
Oh,
it.
sundial. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It only works when I stand at a certain angle.
Right. It doesn't really work when you follow along with my jokes. We're
I
on
can't do
YouTube.
that.
We're family friendly and we're on YouTube. So I would actually rather run everywhere I go because, one, running is socially acceptable. Yelling isn't. Two,
Is it though?
it would be. If I'm like walking to my car and I just sprint there, people would be like, oh, he's really excited to go to his car.
Yeah,
or if I'm like going to check the mail and I run to check my mail, people would be like, oh, he's really excited to go check his mail.
What if you had to go to Walmart?
People would be like, oh, he's in a real big hurry. His wife must be pregnant. And she is so...
Terrible. I don't like
Can you imagine bowling someone over with your cart while you're running through Walmart? Because literally you have to run. You don't know how to walk. I think for a first episode of the Conversation Party Starter, great one. I run everywhere. You yell everything. I'm going to lose weight because I'm running everywhere.
a lot of calories yelling.
Throw up a lot. Which brings us to our final segment.
Okay.
Our final segment, which is wet and sticky. Brown and sticky. I always mess this up. And the joke isn't a wet stick. It's what's brown and sticky.
What's brown and sticky? Yeah, so it's our dad joke of the week. I'm really excited.
It's your week.
It is my week. Josh, I just got some new sneakers.
Ooh, what kind of sneakers are they?
Well, I bought them off a drug dealer, and I don't know what he laced them with, but I've been tripping all day.
Wow, that is bad.
It's so good.
Why it's weird hearing an old person use young people language. It's the part that makes that dad joke real weird.
Terrible. People are like looking at the videos like, but they look like the same age.
But you got like 10 years on me.
At least.
I have aged horribly, and that is what we're going to take away from this.
The end. Thank you for tuning in to the Lukewarm Seat. Remember, rate, review, subscribe to us on all of the places where you get your podcast or whatever. I don't know how this works. Check out our sponsors.
Stay tuned to our TikTok. Say TikTok. TikTok. Stay tuned to our Instagram, our Facebook, our Twitter, all the Lukewarm Seat. There's going to be more content posted on YouTube. I'm trying to get Chris to do some music stuff on there. I'm doing some collectible stuff. It's expanding. We're expanding. We're expanding a lot quicker than I thought we would too.
Yeah.
And this has been this week's episode of the Lukewarm Seat, or last week's episode. You're listening to it this week, or vice versa, or whenever you're listening to it, you're listening to it now.
I think I just had an aneurysm.
It's because you're old.
Oh.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye. That was good.
This has been a TPC Network podcast. For more shows like this, go to tpcnetwork.com/podcasts.